Hello, everyone. Welcome to Drinks and Discussions. Alongside Flaky Jake, we've got Ghostly Girl Tiff in the building, in his house. And of course, I am your host of Drinks Discussions, Brian. Glad to have you all here. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's everybody doing? I can hear you. I'm hoping that you are because I know things have been hitting people really hard when it comes to um, things that have been happening in the news. And I don't want to dwell on it, but it wouldn't be drinks and discussions if we at least didn't touch on it before we get into some of the other things. But the shooting that happened again in a school shooting that took the lives of three small children, 9 years old, I believe they were nine, or excuse me, three sets of parents are now without a child, a 9 year old. I cannot imagine, I can't fathom it. It makes zero sense to me. Um, but go ahead, say what you wish to say around that.
I've seen a lot of people say, rot in hell and blah, 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 whatever. But I can't imagine a hell that would be worse than a parent losing their child to violence like that. I really can't.
I I can't imagine. Look, say this to my wife all the time when I'm looking at my son. I say, you know, from last year to this year, how big they've grown, and even with yours, Tiff, how they small they were, and how we used to be able to just hold them, and they would just lay there and just and love us back, and now they're just on the move all the time. They're getting so big, and it kind of makes me wish that they were still small again. And I don't want to fathom. I know my wife doesn't like talking about it when they happens, but I don't want to think about living a life without my children. I just don't want to ever have to lay there and just live in a world where my children are not with me. So I can't imagine being in those in their shoes at this moment in time. But prayers and thoughts go out to them for sure.
I
Liz,
haven't followed it much.
okay,
Um, I do know that it was a woman, I believe, that was the shooter. Is that true? Does
yes,
anybody know more than I?
yes,
I will say
That
that her final messages, and I say her because I'm not sure 100% sure, but her final messages, she signed them with another name that was like, I think it was Adrian, like a male name. And so I was wondering if maybe she was exploring like her identity or whatever. So I don't know. But I will say, I'm the true crime junkie. Of course, I watched the body camera footage from the police, and um, I was impressed with how like how well they performed. It's definitely an embarrassment for Texas, the Uvalde situation, and I think they did handle it a lot better with the national situation. Which I don't ever want to say that they handled it better because still 6 people died. But
their
yeah,
response to it was a whole lot better. I think that's what you're trying to get at. Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. They did embarrass the police department in Uvalde in their reaction to an active shooter situation. But again, this is not a live about that, so let's try to bring something a little bit more positive and uplifting about what we want to talk about. But again, we just want to talk about it because I know I had thought a post. Look at Tiff, the dog. I know I'd seen a post from Tiffany today about it, and I know I've been reading about it. I am not brave enough to watch the active or the body cams or the footage. I am just not that. I'm not built that way. I don't want to see it.
I did not
But
watch the Uvalde one.
mhm.
I never watched that one because I read a comment that there were children screaming, and
Mhm.
I can't listen to something like
Yeah,
that.
I wouldn't be able to do that at all.
Yeah, no
Um,
way.
but hello everyone. Hello everyone in the chat. Again, if you are on our Discord channel and you'd like to join the panel, feel free to let me know, and we'll see about getting you spot on the panel. Um, but we do have Flecky Jake and Ghostly Girl Tiff joining us. And I wanted to do something a little bit different today because I know I already posted a premiere video, but there was a lot of other things going through my head today. And I thought, let's talk about it and let's put one of the videos that I was going to save for a later time today, and let's get some real time reaction about what is being said. We can pause it if we need to, dissect it as it goes along, because sometimes when we watch these videos, it's a lot to take in. And if you don't pause and like take your notes like I do when I'm watching them for the first time, it's hard for you to kind of really point out things that may be of interest or may fit your whatever it is that you need to get from these videos. Sound like a good idea?
Absolutely. And I'm interested in doing something like this myself, so I would love to see somebody else do it first.
That's kind of where I was going with this. I was like, okay, this is something that I think that Tiffany has been asking and trying to figure out how to do as well. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Drinks and Discussions True Crime. They have been on hiatus for a little bit, but they are definitely going to be ramping back up. So please go to the Drinks and Discussions homepage. Down at the bottom, you will be able to see the links to all of our channels, including Drinks and Discussions True Crime. Um, so I wanted to share something with you all about some things that I've been going and thinking through. We've been talking about when people show you who they are, believe them. They're not going to say that I'm this person, but then walk and carry themselves differently. If they are going to talk about it, they should be about it. They should be who they actually say they really are. Because if they don't, and they show you who they really are, believe them. Um, and another thing that I have been thinking about and talking about is letting people go. Not everybody that comes into your life is meant to stay there. A lot of people come in and they try to bring you down. They're there to kind of maybe even uplift themselves because they need someone to, terrorize and or try to demean in order to value themselves or make themselves look as if they're at a higher level than what they really are. So, do you have a timeline like we were talking about yesterday, to where you say, do you forgive, do you forget, and then you still hold on, or do you forgive, forget, and let go?
I'm a very cold person. It's very easy for me to let someone go. It's very easy. If they're not, I kind of think of like, if you're not important to my storyline, you're bringing toxicity to it, then I don't need that. So it's very easy for me to just forget about someone. That's maybe bad, but
No, I'm the exact same way. I don't give a rat's behind about people's feelings most of the time, especially if I think that they're just being, like you said, toxic. Look, I think that I'm a really good guy to be around. I think I provide value, at least some kind of comic value from time to time. If that's not the case, then we don't have to be cool. Look, we can be, hey, how you doing type of friends, but I don't have to sit at the table with you. We don't have to share meals. We don't have to go on dinner dates and all that kind of stuff with family. Look, stay good to see you. I'll see you next time, 2 years from now, or a year from now, whenever the next one is. I don't have to be around you every day. And I'm okay with that.
yeah, I'm good with that. I have a very peaceful life. So
And I don't like people, and it bothers me too when I hear people constantly trying to live in the past life. We were always talking about, things that we used to be, um, how we used to be, our moments that we were probably, smaller, stronger, or even had a different car or whatever the case may be, worked in a different place in our past. I find that people who hold on and latch on to their past are having problems moving forward in their future. They are stagnant. You don't see them moving in the same circles that I like to move in. You don't see those success factors coming as frequently as people who are not looking in the rearview mirror. People who are forward focused, are typically the people that I like to kind of associate with and bring around in my circle of friends.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times when people have something negative about me personally to say, it's because they haven't talked to me in 10 years. They don't know who
Yeah.
I am anymore. I'm a different
Mm-hmm.
person was 10 years ago, even 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the same person. And it's always about growth, continuing to grow. If you're living in the past, then you're stunting your own growth, your own personal growth, I think.
Oh my gosh, you just hit something right on the nail on the head. I have gotten that so many times where if people haven't spoken to me, and even if it's 6 months or longer, and they say, well, the last time you were like this, and I'm like, wait a minute. If you're still holding on to that, that's on you. That's not on me, because usually people think that people are maturing, they're changing, they get better for the most part. People try to get better and improve upon themselves. If you are still holding on to things that you think I did or said or how I acted the last time you saw me, and it's been years since you saw me, that tells me that you're the person that's not mature. You're the one who's not growing. You're the one who's stuck living in the past.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. But if you're living in the past, then you never get to appreciate and enjoy the future that's coming because I think everybody should want to always be getting better, even if you think that you're doing good and you if you've met a goal, you should make another goal. Keep going further, further, further. It should always be about getting better and better and better. I think I'm my own rival, or like that rap song, "Me versus Me." You have to challenge your own self to be better.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hello, Lizard Breath, Lizzie. Hello, she's joined the chat. Hello, everyone else. I think I've said hello everyone to in the chat personally, but I also have a shout out to Megan's in the building. Veen, of course, Liz is over there, and Norfolk Southern Pokey District is in the house. Hello, and I'm sure we have some watchers as well. I want to say hello to all the watchers. Hello to everyone. I hope you guys find this video, this live stream, a little bit different from what we normally do. We're going to do some video, watching a video that I think is very important, um, and uplifting, motivational, should I say, as well. So, and unless you ladies have anything else, I want to show this video. And again, we're going to be on the same screen with the video. And please let me know if there's a moment where you hear a point that we need to stop and dissect it and see what and discuss it further. Okay?
All right, my phone's dying. I'm sorry, I'm moving.
Oh, okay. And I think I pulled up the wrong one anyway. So let me make sure I got the right video. Wait a minute. Sorry.
There's that tech support again.
You know what? Let's talk among ourselves while this thing continues to go, continues to do its magic. I'm still working some magic on the back scene, on the back end of this whole thing. Um, but let's talk about some other stuff while I'm still doing this. I'm sorry. We'll come back to this. The video.
Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Lizzie says is asking if you can turn your volume up a bit.
You got it. Hang on one second. Maybe I should bring my microphone closer to me. Is that better?
Well, that helps. Yes.
And how about that now?
That's
Super better?
better for me.
I
Better
can
for
hear you.
me. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, give me a few seconds on the getting the video ready. It'll be done in a minute. But like I said before, what this is going to talk about is those moments where we all kind of get to these places in our lives. And one thing that I have been noticing about myself, even, we are in a time period where we are working from home, working remotely, if you will. I had gotten to a point where I started getting a little bit. I would procrastinate a lot. I would wake up, I'd put my pajamas on, I'd come into the office and put my feet up, catch up on ESPN, catch up on YouTube, and then I'd just kind of be like slowly get into the work mode. And it was probably about a year, almost 6 months ago, maybe 6 to 8 months ago, I started getting dressed. start putting some clothes on. I started doing things differently, and I think it's right about the time I started doing these motivational research on topics of how to better oneself. And I realized that there's an old saying. I don't know if you guys heard this things where you put in the big things first and the important things first. There's an analogy where a professor would say, here's some rocks, here's some sand, here's some water, and here's some other things. And how can you put all those things in this jar? And everybody would come in and people would put the water in first, and then people put the rocks in and it'd overflow. People put the sand in and they couldn't fit all the rocks in and all that kind of stuff first. So the professor said, well, here, let me help you with this. So he puts the big rocks in first, and then he takes the sand slowly, and as he's shaking it around, because the sand granules are going all the way around the big rocks. And once the sand fits, then he puts the water in, and the sand kind of soaks up the water and it gets everything, and he puts it in, and he closes the lid. See, this is what's happening. He goes, the reason this works is because when you put in the big things first, everything else seems to fit. The big things in your life, if you put those as priority, then everything else should come after. Hello, Paul. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hello. Hello, everybody.
I think I had a ham banana moment there when I said welcome to the show.
You're allowed to have these moments in life.
Well, welcome. We appreciate you joining.
Thank you.
And then I was playing golf today with my friend Tim, and he said, when I was talking about, I get up in the morning now and I want to get my workout in first and get it out of the way. He goes, he heard it called, the analogy called eating the frog. It's called eating the frog. And he said, there's no real good way to eat a frog. He said, but if you eat it first, then you can go in and eat anything else after the fact to get rid of the taste. But as long as you eat the frog first, it helps get it out of the way. I never had heard that one. And Liz is Lizard Breath. Lizzie is saying that another one is to look up the dump truck theory. I have not heard of that one, but I will actually look up that one. Dump truck theory. Hold on. What about you, hey guys, ladies, and Paul? Have you heard of other motivational things similar about how to stop procrastinating and get things done?
I'm not a procrastinator, but my husband is.
Yeah.
Surely attest to it, but I am like to get things done like immediately. Even with my job, like there are always things that I could wait and not do until a later time. But if I just do them, then I can have days like this where I'm working, but I don't have any critical things to attend to, and I can kind of just leisurely, as you can see, enjoy my day. So.
Right. And I'm with you on that. When it comes to work, I like to get all my stuff that I need to get done. And then I can, like you said, have the afternoon where I can kind of take a little bit of time to myself, enjoy whatever I need to enjoy, and spend time with other people. But I'll also tell you, my wife is probably like you. She will probably call me a procrastinator. I can't foretell the future, by the way, in case you didn't know that. Because I will wait to, I don't know, my time, I guess, to do things, order gifts for a baby boy, or book hotels and all this kind of stuff. And my wife is like this. She's got a notepad and all these notes and stuff and deadlines. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's too much for me. It's too much for me.
That's but you would love to go on vacation with us because there's an itinerary. This day we're doing this at this time, and everything's planned out. And you don't have to do anything. You can just enjoy your time because someone has taken their hard work and effort and planned everything out for you.
Hey Fernando, hey, how's it going? He's at work and he's listening to us. We really appreciate the support. Hope you're not having a very stressful day at work. So, well, again, we still appreciate you coming in. That itinerary stuff, it kind of drives me nuts. I'm kind of a fly by the seat of my pants kind of thing. to a certain degree when it comes to leisure events. I'm the last person that shows up at our golf turn. I mean, on our golf days, I'm either the first or the last or second to the last. And for the majority of the time, there are times where I do go and I'm showing up like either the second or third, but I get made fun of quite a bit to showing up because everybody's out there hitting golf balls and warming up and practicing, and I show up and I'm like, oh man, give me some coffee or a screwdriver immediately, and then I'm like, I gotta wait till like the fifth hole or sixth hole to loosen up. And Liz, now you know why I have not broken 90 yet, because I'm lazy. You're on mute if you were talking to us, Liz.
Yeah.
Paul, what say you about the procrastination and,
Well,
not looking in the rearview mirror for things?
and my dad used to say, "Do it or I'll beat you." But my old boss,
You saw that comment from me?
yeah, my old boss used to say, because my old job used to be a chef, so procrastination wasn't good enough being a chef. So my boss always used to say, "Do the 5 P's in life," which is proper prevention prevents piss poor performance.
Piss Paul performance. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as long as you properly prepare yourself and prepare, and I think this works in any type of job. As long as you do proper preparation, whether it be mentally or physically or materialistically, you can't go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that you have to prepare and have a plan. I don't necessarily, and this is one of the reasons why I think my brain works overtime. I rarely sleep 8 hours. Rarely sleep 8 hours. I go to bed. I have to play a brain stimulating game. It's weird, but I play these games until my eyes get like tired, and then when I go to sleep, I'm thinking about the next day. I'm thinking about all the things and tasks that I have to get done. How am I getting them done? Even if I'm golfing the next day, I keep planning each hole in my head. This is what the club I'm going to use. This is what I'm going to do. It's weird that my brain works that way. It's hard to shut it off.
No,
And
it's good. I think it's you mentally preparing for the game. You want to do well in the game, even though I know sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
oh, absolutely not. I'm a dreamer. I'm a golf dreamer, man. If I could play in
Yeah.
real life, I do in my dreams, man, I would quit my day job.
You think in your dreams you're Tiger Woods. When you end up doing a course, you end up like, I don't know. I don't know any
Like,
bad golfers.
like Drinks and Discussions is how I play. That's how I am.
Yeah. You end up having a few drinks on the course.
Oh, absolutely. More than a few.
Yeah, and you end up you want the ball to go straight, and you end up going in the rough or in the woods.
Every time, just about every time.
Every
I'm
time.
working on it.
Sandbanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm definitely working on it. Definitely.
How long have you been working on
Tiffany, this is like, you know what? Why you? This is not for private conversations. This is supposed to be general, not about Brian. See, this
Well,
is
it's turned out about you. I'm interested to know now too.
it's been a while. Let's say it. Let's put it that way. It's been a while. But look, not that I'm making excuses, but I used to when I first started playing. I used to fool myself, and my best friend Tim always says to me, when he first met me, and I would tell my golf scores, he would go, "Man, this guy's better than me. I got to play with this guy," because I'm coming back and I'm shooting 80s and mid 80s and low 80s, and I'm like, he's like, "Dang." Well, when I first started, I wasn't counting drops. I wasn't counting penalty strokes. I was only counting the good shots. And if you only count the good shots, you can easily score in the 80s easily. But when you start playing the game with all the rules and the ticky tack stuff that they always want to talk about, then you're not as good as you think. And so, and then I took maybe about a year off, a little bit over a year off, and then I had to come back in and got new clubs and start, doing different things and messing around with my swing. And so it's probably been well overdue for me to crack the 90s or crack the 80s, but work in progress, should I say, still. Thanks for bringing it up, Tiff. Thanks for bringing it up, Tiff.
You could take lessons, they are out there. right?
Oh, and look, my admin now is on top of this. Oh, wow, this is beat up Brian Day. I get it. I'm gonna cry when I get in the
I'm
car. So,
just saying.
can somebody give $5 to boot me off this panel? Lord. Uh,
Get the club pro
Well,
to teach you.
I'm sorry.
yeah.
We'll say that again.
Get the club pro to teach you.
Well, I do have training built into the membership that I'm on. Just having a 4 year old and other business things that I'm trying to do, and I really just don't have a lot of time. I barely have enough time to get out there and play. And thank God that my wife allows me to do that. But outside of just that one day, or even a quick afternoon, if I can play, I'm lucky to do that because there's just other things that I have to do. So
I understand. Well, the
I,
game is Scottish, and the Scots are good at drinking too, so you can get away with it.
Wait a
speaking of,
minute. Wait a minute.
go ahead.
I gotta ask something. Okay, you just said, "Thank God your wife lets you." I need to take lessons from some of these women because I could never impose my will on my ex-husband to the point where he would even say my wife lets me do this or that. Either that or I just continually pick the wrong men. I don't know.
I choose B. I choose B.
Okay.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you what you said, Tiff.
I said it could be
Mhm.
B.
Yeah, probably was.
I'm keeping
Well,
out of it.
well, check it out. I'm not going to sit here and try to even pretend that I'm like this perfect husband or anything because I don't think that exists. I get on my wife's nerves probably worse than anybody she's ever met or she even knows. But that's par for the course. You live with each other. You're going to get on each other's nerves. You know each other intimately and all of the nuances and things. And sooner or later, those things kind of, fester. It's our job as two people committed in a relationship to not allow those things to put their roots into the relationship to where the roots start letting it grow, and then you have this big bush or this tree growing in between you. And if you allow that to happen, then that causes problems. It's also a give and take of things, and my wife allows me to do YouTube. I've said that before. Especially when I was doing it every Tuesday night, she would go in and put Kate into bed, my son into bed, while I'm on YouTube. I couldn't have done that without her, supporting me and doing those things. When she goes out to her friends, we still ask, hey, you got anything going on? Can we go out with our friend and do these things as a mutual respect? And again, it's work in progress. You just kind of gotta do things that that what you would want to be done to you. And I think you got to have mutual respect for each other and know those boundaries of what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing in relationships.
Well, I guess I just wasn't very good at it. I don't know how else to explain it.
It probably was not you. It wasn't you.
Right.
There's a lot
Well,
of, and it's easy to find your confidence.
it takes two, right? When you hear one side of a divorce situation, you have to remember there were two people in the relationship, and if you only hear one side of the story, then you've only heard one side of the story. And it's kind of painful to recognize that, but it's true. I'm just saying. I don't think it was one of my gifts. Let's put it that way.
Well, we talk about this too. Sometimes you have to be self-aware, and if you are in a relationship or in a past relationship, once you get out of that relationship, you have to go, what could I have done, or if there was anything that I could have done that could either contributed to the demise of the relationship, or what did I do right that I can take forward and produce and manifest itself in a newer relationship. I do that all the time, especially when I deal with people, businesses, and any other aspect of my life. I like to say, what could I have done better? especially if I'm doing a presentation and I don't get the bid or I don't get the project, I'll go, how could we have done, what could we have done better um, in order for us to have gotten that particular project? What are the goods? What are the bads? And I always try to focus on the goods and then say, oh, we can take those goods and move it to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work with a lot of difficult people in my job, and I never complain about someone. I just always consider it a learning experience for me because now I know what to do in that situation and how to deal with people like that.
Mhm.
So I don't know where I was going with that, but
I know how chefs deal. Some chefs deal with people complaining, and you don't want to know.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Especially army chefs,
Oh
who I
yeah.
had a lot of work experience with.
I don't think we want to know. Don't no
No,
details.
you
Please.
really
No
don't want to
details.
know.
No
No.
details.
It's like it said in your title, let it go.
You know, and that's a good thing. Well, I mean, because the video's almost done here, and that's something I kind of. Tiffany had mentioned something earlier too about always looking forward and moving forward. Well, I think Walt Disney. I know Liz will be able to will love this one.
Yes.
Walt Disney was the one who said, "Keep moving forward."
Yep.
I think that was a quote from him. And my cousin also uses that or something similar in his business that he does. He's always don't ever look backwards, always keep moving forwards. And I'm kind of trying to emulate that practice in my day-to-day stuff as well because I don't want to repeat my past mistakes, but I'm also not living on my past successes either. My past successes are, yeah, let's enjoy the moment, let's move forward because there are other successes to have. There are other things and positive things that we can have in the future.
yeah, you definitely don't want something in the past to be like the climax of your life because then that means that you're not growing. So
Right.
you can't be homecoming king forever.
Yeah, you sure cannot. Right. Right. And then sometimes you think back and you say the homecoming king is probably the guy who's probably still living in his mom's basement playing video games 8 hours a day or on YouTube. You just never know.
Funny you should say Walt Disney, because I'm really big into my family research, and I'm actually a distant relation to him.
Wow.
To who?
Okay.
To Walt Disney,
Really?
yeah, and
All
supposed
right.
to be George Washington too.
I am a
Okay.
distant relative of William Henry Harrison, who was the shortest serving president ever. So not as cool as George Washington, but
That sounds
I've
about
got,
right. That sounds about right, Tiff. That sounds
yeah,
about right.
I'm related, supposed to
Makes
be
sense.
related.
That
I
makes
do
sense.
not, I don't know how to believe this, but to 17 US presidents.
it's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, it
I
is.
have absolutely no famous relatives whatsoever. So there you
is.
go.
And most of them come from Scottish stock.
I don't
No.
know any famous Scots.
That's going off topic, sorry, because Brian mentioned Walt Disney there, so
That's fine.
well, I'd chum that little bit in.
It's Brian's fault.
Yes, Brian's
You
fault,
can
yeah.
do
Well, Paul, let the past go, brother. Let the past go, man.
I can't, they're rich. I want some of their money.
And it's funny because when I hear people who are just always stuck on, I used to do this or this person used to be a part of that, and people latch on to these things, and it's mind-boggling to me because again, I'm the guy who likes to have a beer, some nachos, sit on a patio, and I watch people. That to me
Yep.
is entertainment. I love and I'm curious about people's behavior. If I see somebody doing this, I'm like, I wonder what's going on with that person. I want to know. I really am just the curious guy. I want to know why people behave the way they behave.
I used to like going to Glasgow Central Station, which is a big state train station, and just watching people go by and wondering what's happening and all that,
Mm-hmm.
Seeing how they behaved, how if they're saying goodbye to people, if they're coming and seeing people greeting them and stuff like that.
Have you ever thought about this, any of you, that maybe the person that you are with, or even just somebody that you're friends with, that there's one point in time that you were in the same room, same grocery store, same someplace, but didn't know it?
Oh, I know 100% sure that happened.
Yeah, I think the
We
same
used,
thing.
we used to go skating at the same skating rink. My family owned the skating rink, so I was always there. And
Mm.
his used to always be there. I didn't know who he was. My cousins know him though.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. They all went to school together. It's crazy.
Very-
So I'm sure
ve-
we were handshakes away from each other.
Okay, you're kind of losing me. Do you mean in the same place before you knew each other? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, I didn't know him until I was 20 years old, probably.
Okay. All right. I wasn't
No,
sure
I
how
don't
you
think. No, I don't think that's happened to me.
Really?
No, yeah.
I don't think it's happened to me either that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I don't think that's happened.
I've had people say that they have seen me and I had no idea that they were around. But like maybe people I know, they know me and I know them, and they might say, "Hey, I saw you doing this." And we were at the Byron Nelson last year, and our friend's wife was watching TV, and she picked up because she said, "I saw Brian's hat in the crowd," and we were like standing right next to them. We're getting ready to tee off, and she goes, "I saw Brian's hat, and I knew that was you guys." And so she put it on DVR and recorded it, and we all got to see ourselves on TV.
And
That's
It was
awesome.
weird.
one of these things happened to my person I know. He was in Disneyland. Is it Disneyland or Disney World? I don't know. One of the Disney big places. And he comes from the same town as me. And suddenly he heard this voice shouting him, and it turned out to be somebody he knew from the same town too.
Hmm.
Okay.
And that was in America. This happened. So he travelled all the way from from England, and he
Wow.
saw one of the people he knew.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's
The odds of that happening, the odds of that happening has to be very, very low.
Oh, it is very low because the town where I'm from is not a big town neither.
Hmm.
You know, it's it was just a mid-sized town in Hampshire.
Well, let me ask you, because the video is getting ready to get started here, but I want to ask the panel a question before we get started. What do you think of the people? What do you refer to them as when you know that they are not as capable of moving forward, not being able to let go of the past? And that could be even in toxic environments and relationships or otherwise. I know we all know somebody who is holding on to something, and we're like, why are you so stupid? Why are you still doing this? How do you, one, broach the subject with them if you ever do? And then also, what is the best advice you think that you would give someone if they were in such a kind of a relationship or environment?
Who's going to speak first? Who's the first one? Pick a person, Brian. Pick a person.
I'm going to start with Paul first because I can see it marinating, and Tiff is probably trying to measure her words so that she doesn't come across as too judgmental on whoever she's going to talk about.
Okay, for a person who can't let go of things and keeps themselves in the past, I'd call them mentally retarded.
Mentally challenged, it would be a better word, but that's okay. I get it.
No. Mentally thing. I just mean mentally retarded. They're not mentally challenged. Mentally challenges to me is people who suffer really bad from mental health and other disabilities. A mentally retarded person would be somebody who just seems to be stuck on the past and doesn't want to let things go and continues to hold things on for like 20 odd years or 30 odd years and sort of ha.
Gotcha.
Yeah, just let it go, mate. Just fucking let it go. You know, it's a past. What can you do about it now?
What can you do? And let me pause for a second. Grumpy Drunk, everybody's favorite drunk, is in the house. Hello, Grumpy Drunk. How are you? All right,
How to
Liz.
get them out of it?
Yeah, how do you get out?
Sorry.
Best advice. Best advice you would have give them, or what do you do in order to see if you can help them in their situation?
Give them a slap and say, snap out of it. The best thing to do is just say, yeah, just give them a little backhander. Smack out of it. That's what they need to be told. People like that just need to be told just to snap out of it. Because there's nothing they're going to do. If you say give them, they'll just take it and go, oh, la di da di da. Tell them straight. Be blunt. That's what they need in life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, the cameraman is in the building as well, and I like what he's saying. And there's some things that I am going to say in response to him in just a few seconds. But Liz, what say you? If you find someone who is leading down a path that is toxic or in a relationship that's toxic, what do you say, if anything? How do you think that what advice would do you think that you would offer them in that situation?
I don't know that I would offer any advice other than to let them know that if they needed me, I would be there. And I say that because, again, I don't have a lot of confidence in my own ability to navigate relationships all the time myself. So I don't feel like I could give them any valid advice that would help them. Not to say I couldn't support them, but I kind of feel like cameraman. Who am I to tell them is kind of where I would be coming from, which I guess isn't very helpful, but that's kind of where I'd be. Yeah.
And before you start, let me repeat the question again, if I may. I think I remember it. If you are aware of someone who's having a hard time letting go and they're in a toxic relationship, a toxic environment, and they come to you and ask you for some advice, what's the best advice you can give someone who is stuck in the past, not really to let go of something that's even in their past, that's maybe holding them down or holding them back so that they can't move forward in life and be successful in other things? What are your advice? It's not always about the relationship, but what is your advice about people who are just unable to let go in either of those two scenarios?
So I think that the easiest person to lie to is yourself. And I think that people get blinded by, they have an idea of something, they're in love with the idea of something, but that's not the reality. And I know that there's lots of people who don't have a strong support system, but even if you have one person, I think that it's important, somebody who knows you well, to talk with them and get their perspective on it, because I think that in order for you to see things clearly, you kind of have to step back from the situation and view it from like a third person view. Because when you're in the situation, you're a blind person. And if you're telling yourself something and if you're convincing yourself something, that's what you're going to believe. And sometimes it's even hard when you have family or friends or whatever telling you, like, this is a bad situation that you're in. But I think it's important to take the weight of those people's opinions and what they're seeing, because a lot of times, even though we never know what happens behind closed doors, but if there's red flags that you're missing, I think it's important to lean on your support system. And most times people will do whatever they can to help somebody get out of a situation that's bad, if your friends, your family, whatever. And like I said, even if you only have one person that you can trust, I think it's important to kind of lean into your support system.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I was going to say in response to the cameraman. When he's saying, who are you to tell someone to let go of their own pain? That is for them to do on their own. I don't believe that you should interject yourself into other people's situations. If someone asks, I think that is an invitation.
Right.
And you have whatever it is that you would like to say. It's at your disposal on how you want to respond when someone comes and asks for your help. But then there's also times where you may actually see someone in distress. Then I also believe that you can jump in and say, hey, do you need some help? What can I do to help you? And
Yes.
even though you're not saying that they have to let go of some of their pain, you can go in and offer them a support system to allow them to make it easier, possibly, for them to let go of that pain.
Exactly.
I
That's
think
what I meant.
there's a difference between pain and for somebody who just won't let anything go. Pain is
That's
something
true.
that nobody could help. Yep, nobody can help. I suffer from pain, emotional pain, and sometimes physical pain, but I suffer mostly from emotional pain, which affects my daily life. It really does. But somebody won't forget an argument about, so had an argument with you 20 years ago and still hold it against you. Well, that's 20 years ago. Just let it go, man. You know? So there's a difference.
Well, Liz is saying too, it depends. Lizzie is saying it depends on the person, the relationship with the toxic person or situation. You guys are you're getting deep into it, and I appreciate that. But what I'm trying to do is be at a very high level, and I know you can want to bring in and drill down into this situation and how this applies, and all these different factors can all play into it. But if you just look at it from a very high level and say they're asking, how would you react? Is where you want to know from this particular juncture,
But
because
I think it's sorry, Brian.
oh, go ahead.
I think it all depends on the situation.
Hmm.
It really does. If you get somebody who you can see is distressed or had some things happen to them that's
Hmm.
caused them pain, then you shouldn't. And they say you shouldn't get involved, and they say ask you to,
Right.
Yeah.
or they bring you into it.
Sometimes staying in the situation, you're inflicting your own self with pain. So that was kind of my thought was
Hmm.
to, I totally understand feeling pain or someone else causing you pain or emotional distress or whatever, but don't do it to your own self by forcing yourself to be in a situation that's not helpful for you.
And
I guess.
also, if you get involved and you're feeling that, and you're feeling emotionally, that person's in pain, and you got involved, that you're making you feel pain too, the
Hmm.
emotional type. You need to get yourself out of it as well.
Yeah, those
Well,
are emotional vampires, and they suck the
Mm.
good out of you, and they
right of you.
they're garbage.
Right. And before I was going to say exactly what you're about to say, you were saying, Tiff, is Grumpy Drunk was saying he's been down that road and just let it go and go my own way. And there are strong people who can do those, but there are a lot of other people who are not able to. There are a lot of codependent people in the world. And then there are also people who, like Tiffany was just saying, you go into an environment where you think, I can save this person. I can change them. I can turn them around. And we talk about these in other videos. Before you know it, that positivity that you thought you were bringing to the table has now turned against you. And now you are more absorbing the toxic traits of the person that you initially went over there in order to try to save. And you are now involved. You're in that circle, that toxicity it permeates itself throughout the environment that you're in, and it's hard to get out once you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very true.
We can all have good intentions on trying to save someone, but at the end of the day, those boundaries that we talk about, those boundaries, you have to go in with boundaries set. And especially if you know someone, I mean, listen, we all have people we may have been in relationships or know people in relationships with people who have baggage, something that they bring to the table that just not something that it's easy for them to carry. But as long as you have those boundaries set and those boundaries aren't crossed, I think that you can still be effective in that being in that relationship with people. And I don't think that you have to be a savior being necessarily. As long as you put forth an effort, not everybody can be saved. As long as you put forth an effort, I think everybody who has those intentions and makes that effort, I think should be commended And that in itself is something that you can hang your hat on, but don't get sucked into the toxic stuff.
Just give him a quick backhand.
A quick.
Yeah. Smack. There you go.
Okay, so I want to, since we're kind of getting a little bit into in the woods here about what we want to talk about today. I want to start playing the video. I'm going to keep us. We're going to go move up to the small screen on the on your screen. We're going to go to the top right. The video will be playing in the main section. And if you're on the chat or on panel and we're talking about something and you want me to pause it, let me know. I'll pause the video so we can hit some of the high points that you might feel as if are really good things that we can stop and kind of dwell on for a minute or discuss. Okay?
That'd be cool, mate. Yeah, that's okay.
I think a lot of people want to forgive, but they don't know how to do it.
The other thing that you have to learn is when you hold on to your history, you do it at the expense of your destiny.
So if people can understand that as long as they don't forgive, they're poisoning themselves. It's like hating somebody who's hurt you is like taking poison hoping they'll die. It's like me being mad at somebody who hurt me that's out having a good time and don't even care that I'm mad. That doesn't hurt them.
Many of you think forgiving means accepting what has happened to you. Well, it is accepting that it has happened to you. Not accepting that it was okay for it to happen. It is accepting that it has happened, and now what do I do about it? Forgiving is giving up the hope, not holding on, hoping, wishing that it could have been any other way than it actually was. Giving up the hope that the past would be any different. And when I got that, I think it took me to the next level of being a better person, because I don't hold grudges for anything or any situation, and neither should you. It's letting go so that the past does not hold you prisoner, does not hold you hostage.
And are taught to think that it is powerful to hold people hostage with what they did wrong, that that's your power, that's how you get back. No, I didn't forget it, and I'm strong and I'm tough. But it takes more strength to forgive than it does to be vengeful and angry. And the worst part about it is, I really believe that forgiveness does not exonerate the perpetrator. It does not justify their behavior. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself.
Because you let it go.
Because you let it go so that you are available to be your highest and best self. And because you are saying that it is not stronger than me. It is not stronger than me. I disconnect from it and find that I am in control of it, and it is not in control of me.
Let me pause it there for a quick second, if I may. I get it. And then when I saw this video, when I was watching this video for the first time, I started getting it when people were saying to me, let it go. Don't let it bother you. Don't worry about it. And some of you are here on this panel, some of you are in the chat, would say those things to me. Don't let it bother you. Why are you worried about those types of things? When I heard this, and I've been hearing some other things, I started understanding. It's not about another person. It's not that you're saying what you've done to me is okay. It's not that I'm saying that, I necessarily agree with what was done, but I'm forgiving because of me. I'm relieving myself. I'm carrying this burden, dwelling on it, stressing over it day to day. That's what I got out of that part for me personally. What it means when people tell you to let it go, they're not saying overlook it. They're not saying just let them be them. They're saying it's okay for you to be mad. It's okay for you to have a reaction. but don't hold on to it. Don't let it manifest and let it take over your emotional energy to where you are causing stress. And letting go is for you, not for them. Any any thoughts on that so far?
I wish y'all could all be like me because I'm like the definition of I do not give a fuck.
Well, I don't really give a monkey's what anybody says to me on the virtual world. They can say what they want. Talking about the street, say it to my face, it's different.
Agree.
It's also different if it's family. So that brings a whole new dimension into it. Or at least it has for me in my life, because I can hold a grudge forever if I let myself. And I've been known. An example is my oldest brother and myself, who kind of had a falling out when after our mother died, and it took a good 10 years to get a halfway decent relationship back there. A lot of time. So
Sorry, Liz, I still don't talk to some of my family.
Well, and yeah, I had to reach a point where I realized life was too short. It wasn't that it was affecting me emotionally, because most of the time I didn't even think about it. But when we did reconnect and start rebuilding, some sort of relationship, that's when I realized what I possibly missed out on during those 10 years. And it's a lesson learned, but with family, to me, it's different than if you're just talking about friends or acquaintances. I don't know if that's the same for the rest of you, but it is for me.
You're on mute, Tiff.
Oh, I know.
Oh, I thought you were saying something. I thought you were saying something. Okay.
I was talking to the child.
Oh, gotcha. It's funny because when we talk about the family dynamic, it's a little bit more difficult, and I also have the exact same dynamic with some of my family members. I think that's kind of par for the course for a lot of families. But my cousin, who also acts as like kind of my older brother and a mentor toward me in life, told me a long time ago. He goes, "If you want to reach out to someone, do it. No matter who it is. Their response to you reaching out is not your problem. If you feel like you want to do something and reach out, whether it's just to say hello, whatever response you get in return, it's up to them. But you shouldn't worry about the response as long as you're doing what you feel is the right thing to do. And if you pick up the phone and call that person that you're having issues with in your family, it could be anybody. If you feel like you want to do those things, that is you. That is you kind of letting go and saying, hey, I'm willing to kind of not even discuss the things that are, in between us, but I just wanted to say hello, and if I can do that with a stranger or a person that I work with, if I have a disagreement, I can say, hey, look, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come across that way in that email, or whatever the case may be. I can definitely do that with my family members. And even if I don't get a text back, I'll still sit there and say, hey, happy birthday, or hey, I hear you're in town, or hey, what's going on? If they don't give me a response back, I don't get sulky and go, oh man, they didn't call me back, they didn't text me back. Hey, I did what I was supposed to do. I did what I wanted to do in that moment, and I'm okay with that.
You're a better person than me then, because I haven't talked to my brother in hold on, thinking.
Wow.
More than 10 years. Last time we had a proper chat, I ended up punching him through a hedge.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's probably a good idea that you probably do not contact him again.
Yes. Yeah. And funny, I won't say it because it's not part of the thing, but we ended up having a fight. He was an ex-soldier who fought the world dressed up in green and brown still. He tried to order me around, and it didn't end up well. He came at me, so I punched him one and ended up being dragged off of him. so I can't talk to him. I won't refuse to talk to him.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and bring in some of the comments on the, I don't want to miss out on the chat that we have over there. One of the things that cameraman has said too, that for him, he only has one F to give, and he'll save that for a very special purpose. After that's done, then don't give a F anymore. Liz is saying that absolutely not. Family does not get special privileges in her book. They tend to be the worst offenders because they think they are owned because they are blood, and it's supposed to be thicker than water.
That is very true, Liz. I totally agree with that one.
Yep. And I thought Grumpy Drunk had said something too. You have to let that person figure it out on their own, is what Grumpy Drunk had said. We were talking about earlier. And Liz, yes, I think I have learned and become a better person from some of the experiences that I have experienced as well.
I was just about to say my funeral family. The cameraman said the only time my family sees me is when a funeral happens. That's the funeral family. You say, hey, see you next funeral. Hopefully you're not in the box.
Jesus.
Wow.
Oh, dear God.
The funeral family. I'm going to use that actually, because I do have some of those as well. That's for sure. Okay, let's start it.
One of the Greek words for forgiveness is similar to the word exhale. It means to get it out of you. When I forgive you, it don't matter whether you stay mad or not. It doesn't matter whether you deserve it or not. This is not about you. When I forgive you, that means I got it out of me. Yeah, I got it out of me. Whatever was choking my flow and stopping my blessing and breaking up my peace and keeping me up at night and changing my personality, I got it out of me. You can stay angry all you want to, but as for me and my house, I got it out of me. Slap somebody and say, let it go. Anger, hostility, frustration, bitterness, depression, low self-esteem, whatever's got you choked up, let it go.
I've always known this, but somebody told me something one time about forgiveness. Forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is you. See, your unwillingness to forgive another person is like you sipping the poison, waiting on them to die. You can't sip the poison of unforgiveness and expect them to die. Forgiveness is for you. If you got someone who you feel has wronged you and you carrying that, that's like a cancer. And all it's doing is eating away at you. Do you know how many people I've had to forgive that have never asked me for forgiveness? You know how many people I just let go so I could just go where God had for me? Because I just ain't have no more time to spend no more time thinking about that.
Let me ask this question. How many times have you, if any of you, forgiven someone when they didn't say they're sorry?
Oh, most
Never.
of the time.
Never.
Oh,
I
no.
I don't.
Most of the time for me, yeah.
Never.
My husband thinks I'm a terrible person because I think of people who I don't think are important or that I don't know are NPCs. It helps me not
That's
them.
a very good way of looking at it, I suppose. Yeah.
So this is the part. Yeah, I don't get this part. I don't get what he's basically saying, because when I have to forgive someone, even though when they don't ask for forgiveness, it's not a requirement for me in my life. If you don't ask me to forgive you, I'm going to overlook you. You're insignificant in my life. I might say hello to you, but that does not mean that I'm going to blanketly write out the checks of forgiveness and anybody can get one. That's just not how I'm made up.
If a friend does something wrong to you and they don't say, look, I'm sorry, they're not a true friend, are they?
They're not a true friend. Absolutely.
They should know what they've done wrong.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, I've never had to I guess I've never just been in a situation with my friends. We've always been very open, and when we grew up, we say, "Hey, you know what? I'm so sorry. I fucked up, and I'm sorry that happened."
Well,
And
like I
it happened.
said, sorry. Oh, you carry on, Tiff. Sorry, that's my fault.
No, that was it. I was just going to say it happened. So what now? Now you get over it. That's it. That's all you can do is move forward from it.
It's like the time I told you back in, I think it was yesterday, in the stream yesterday, I had a friend for 35 years who I've known since the age of 5. More than 35 years, yeah. Known since the age of 5, I'm now 48. He'd done some terrible things, and I said, look, okay, then you've done these things, but you need to stop doing them. He goes, yep, I've done it, I've stopped, won't do it again. And you reverted back to type. And I said, well, I don't want to know you anymore. Cut him out straight away. Cut the head off the snake.
I have scissors tattooed on my arm for that reason. Cut them off.
Cut them off because they're ready lied to you by saying they're sorry.
Shouldn't the scissors be like a blade on one arm and the other one like this, and you cut them off? It can't just.
You're overanalyzing, Brian. You're overanalyzing.
But I'm the kind of guy also that it takes a lot for me to say, hey, you got under my skin and you owe me an apology. You can just say just about anything. I'm very thin-skinned or thick-skinned. Things roll off my back. I don't get offended easily. And for you to sit there and me to sit there and anticipate a forgiveness or an apology, that's very rare. Because also, I believe that if you surround yourself with the people who mimic your values and your lifestyles and your belief system, that should not happen. I don't think trespassing over people to where you should be owed an apology should happen very often in our lives.
No, it's very. I mean, the same guy. We used to go out drinking a lot, and we went to a pub. I'm not going to say what he said, but he said something so abhorrent. I'm not a violent person. I don't like fighting. I actually threatened to take him outside and clean his cock for him if he ever said that thing again.
Mm-hmm.
And he never did say it again, but his actions proved that I was made the right move by cutting him out of my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That kind of goes back to what Brian said when somebody shows you their true self, because people do change. And I think when somebody shows you their true self and it's like something disgusting that is like a total deal breaker, like for me, for example, like racism. I don't give a fuck what anybody's excuse is that they're racist or whatever. They were raised like that. I don't care. Do better. I just don't think there's an excuse for it. Those are the people that I don't need an apology from you, but I'm done. Like, I'm done with the situation. I wash my hands of it, and now you go live your life in that little horrible whatever you've built for yourself, and I'm going to separate myself from it and move on and be at peace. Save my peace.
Amen to that.
Yeah. Totally. Racism is an abhorrent act done by people with very low intelligence, and I'd prefer them rounded up, put in an island with a musket ball and a bottle of rum.
I agree, 100%. All right, let's go back to the video.
Let that be a lesson to you. You know what my father told me a long time ago? He said, son, when a fool is talking, listen very carefully. Because listening to a fool is important. Because knowing what not to do is just as important as knowing what to do. Something else I heard somebody say. You can't drive your car looking in the rearview mirror. You can't. If you keep looking in the rearview mirror, you're going to keep crashing your car. There's a reason why the rearview mirror is this big and the windshield is this big. That's a reason for it. Because all the rearview mirror does is allows you to see what you've passed and to prevent what you've passed from coming up on you again. That's all the rearview mirror is for. The windshield is your future. It's where you're going. It's where you're headed. I hope you all picked up this today. And think about that, how that affects your life.
Forgive and grow. I had to let that luggage go. You see, your mind is when you're going to a service station to get gas, you don't go in there and just start pumping. When you push the lever up, it clears the previous bill. By the same token, if you want to begin to move, you've got to clear your mind of all the unnecessary luggage and baggage that's weighing us down. I couldn't move. I couldn't think about what am I going to do to get out of this situation because I was so concerned about what happened and what he did to me and how bad it was. I was so stuck in that I couldn't even focus on what I should have done. Feeling sorry for myself and angry, and none of that was taking me anywhere. So pretty soon I learned through effort, made a conscious, deliberate, determined effort. I had to let it go. I had to forgive it. Let it go and begin to focus on developing myself. And I say to you, you're going to have people to do things to you. Things are going to happen to you. And the most important thing to do is to harness your will and let it go and move so you can grow, so you can get on with your life. It doesn't matter about what happens to you. What matters is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do now, Les? How long are you going to tell everybody at the bus stop and anybody who would stand and listen to you? How long are you going to repeat the same thing over and over and over and over and over again? How many times do we have to hear that? Don't go around telling people what your story is. Everybody has a story. 80% don't care and 20% glad it's you.
So how do you deal with forgiveness? Number one, forgive your parents. You do not become an adult until you have forgiven your parents 100% for every mistake they ever made. Remember, it's never too late to have a happy childhood, so just go back and forgive your parents. If they're no longer with you, forgive them and let them go. So the second thing, forgive any relationship that you ever had that didn't work out. Now this is hard because it's so personal and it's so painful. But if you can forgive your parents, it's a real good warm-up. Most people are still mad at their parents in their 50s. If you then forgive every previous relationship, you accept that you were at least partially responsible for getting into the relationship. You were definitely responsible for staying in the relationship. You just...
What was that? I heard somebody saying something. Do you want me to pause it?
It was me. Can you stop it there? I've got something to say about that. About the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll start after.
Okay, hold on a second. What part?
The parents. Forgive the parents.
Okay.
If you then forgive every previous relationship.
I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, and I think I agree with you already.
So the second thing, forgive any relationship.
Is that one? Is that it right there? About the parents?
Yep.
Well, I'm not sure what you're going to say, but just because someone is your parents does not mean that you have to forgive them. And especially if they're dead, I mean, you should let go of that baggage. If it helps you forgive them, I guess. But I don't know. What were we going to say?
I think there's some things that are unforgivable that parents do. I mean, especially mine. I can't forgive my dad for what he done to my mother. And I can't forgive my dad on what he done to me.
Right.
I mean, you can't really say forgive your parents as a step. What about forgiving yourself as a step for what you had to do to defend yourself and to defend what was right?
You know, I always say this, that there are circumstances where you can grow up and be the person that you are in spite of your parents rather than as because of your parents.
Yeah, my dad used to chuck me around the room, literally just chuck me around.
Mm-hmm.
My dad used to punch me because I caught him punching my mum or hitting my mum. I can't forgive him for that. I can't forgive him for putting sleeping pills inside my mum's hot chocolate while he chatted up women on the internet. I cannot forgive him for that. I can't forgive him. I can't forgive him for leaving my mum to say he's going up to the shop for, I won't use a slang, but for a pack of cigarettes, and suddenly going to Hull, then finding a woman in America and moving to America.
Well, then let me ask you this question then, since we're on the subject, and that's terrible. I don't wish that upon any child growing up, no matter the age. But how do you deal with the emotional baggage that comes with? How do you sit there and go, as you look in yourself in the mirror and say, none of that was your responsibility, none of that was your fault? How do you
I
get past the carrying the baggage for so long, if
I
you do
didn't
it all?
think it was. I didn't think it was my fault. I blamed it all on him. It was his fault he done this. It was his fault. He's his own adult and he's his own actions. My dad was a professional chef in the army. He got army training. He got certificates and hotel. He never worked for a day in his life until he left my mum. Then he got himself a security job. Then, like I said, he moved to Buffalo. Now he's back in England.
Mm.
My dad never done a thing to help us when we were younger. We used to drink. We used to have a big pot of soup on Sundays sometimes.
Mm.
We didn't know what like a good proper roast dinner was until real like later on in
Wow.
life. My dad was. I'm not saying we didn't have good times, but you always remember the bad times for the good times.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Like I say, because I wasn't my brother, I wasn't army daft. I wanted to do my own thing. In fact, I wanted to be a hairdresser once. I was in a class full of women. It was brilliant.
Your dad sounds almost identical to my grandfather. So even though I didn't have to deal with that, I know what my mom has dealt with having a parent like that. And I think she has just tried to like end that. Well, my family calls it curses. She's tried to end that curse on our family by totally being everything that he wasn't. I mean, this is a guy who he hated my mom so much. He had another baby with another woman, named the baby the same name as my mom. And when my mom would come over to visit him, he would call her name or their name. They would both come and he would be like, I'm not speaking to you, to my mother.
Wow,
He's a terrible person.
Both my mum and dad had really hard upbringings. They lived in the back streets of Glasgow. My dad was in a home because his mother had TB. My mum had a rough upbringing into that she lived, like say, in relative what you'd call the slums, the old tenement houses where they used to house 40 people in one house. It was a rough background, but he used to take out a lot of things on me. Not my brother had it sometimes because my brother joined the army and I didn't. I got the brunt of it.
Mm.
Yeah, my mom had an older brother and he got the brunt of it because when my grandfather would beat my grandmother, he would try to stop it, and then he would end up being the one who would take the beating, basically.
Last time when I was in my 20s, my dad thought he could carry it on. He forgot one thing. I was bigger and stronger than he was, so I had to pick him up and actually threw him 2 or 3 foot and told him to leave me alone. And that, since then, he never touched me. But when he left my mum, I can't forgive him for that. Sorry, I think that person's wrong. Saying,
I don't blame you. And it's kind of like what Lizzie is saying in the chat too, that it's breaking the cycle is hard. There's a lot of people, and it's funny that my 4-year-old was sitting on the couch having a date with my wife last night. He wanted me to be the waiter because I was in there cooking. I had to be the waiter. So he sat on this side of the table. He gave her some flowers that we have sitting around, little fake flowers. He gave those to her. And he has this little ring that we keep in this little box. And so they were going to go on a date. He tells me he's going to marry her. It's the cutest thing. And I looked over my wife. I promise you, I'm not just making this up. It's a true story. It happened last night. I looked over and I go, you know what? You know he gets the way to treat women from his daddy, right? And she's kind of like, you know what? You're bragging over there, aren't you? I said, yeah. But what I'm saying is, and why I brought that up is because breaking the cycle is hard when you are in a situation where your dad is beating the mother, beating on women, treating women poorly. A lot of times you inherit that toxic trait, and men think that that's the normal. That's how women are supposed to be treated. They don't know that you're supposed to, and even like we were saying about with Liz and her past relationship, you wasn't aware that men were asking if it's okay from their wives or getting permission to do things from their wives. It's not something.
It's not really permission though. I think you know this. It's a respect.
Right. It's not like, yeah, it's not like I have to go and get like a signed permission slip to me to go play golf or anything. It's just like, hey, I want to make sure that this is not going to piss you off or anything. It's to make my life even more miserable than anything
And
else.
secretly, it is because men are frightened of their wives. All men. All men are secretly frightened of their wives.
Paul. Liz, you still
true.
there?
It's a bad secret.
You're still there with us, Liz? Any comments before we continue on?
Yeah, I'm still here. It's hard for me to have a frame of reference for the current discussion, guys, because I can honestly say, and I know a lot of people may not believe me, I don't have anything to forgive my parents for. I had great parents.
I did too. I'm totally with you. That's why I had to go off perspective from my grandfather, because I actually did have really good parents. I'm very lucky, fortunate, I guess, for that.
Me too.
But you have problems with your brother. You said it's not all about the parents. It's about family members that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So there's ways that you can take the discussion and correlate it to how you feel, and maybe even topics that you have with your brother. It doesn't necessarily have to be your parents.
That's true. But we were kind of focusing on parents, and that I have no frame of reference for. But yes, other family members. My younger brother right now, I'm having trying to figure out how to deal with. He's got bad drug and alcohol problems, and I don't hear from him most of the time, but he happened to reach out to me yesterday
nice.
by text, and well, I don't know. I haven't responded. I don't know how to respond. He left me a text that said that he's down to 140 pounds, and his exact words were, "I think this is it for me." I don't know how to respond to that.
You might want to respond and say, "Are you okay?
Yeah,
you need anything?"
Well, I already know.
You know,
my other brother has been in contact with him. So what my younger brother doesn't know is that I've already been brought up to speed on what my younger brother is doing, and it's that even though he's on methadone for heroin, he's doing fentanyl as well. So he's dropped down to 140 pounds, and he's about 6 feet tall, maybe a little bit more. So he's skin and bones, obviously, and he's slowly killing himself. And I know he's not okay.
Well, I think I'm going to tell you from experience, because my older brother suffers with addiction. And every time I get a message like that, he's wanting something. He doesn't. It's one of those things. He wants you to feel sorry for him in the situation, and then the next thing you know, he's going to be asking you for something,
food, money for medicine, whatever, and that money is going to go towards drugs. It's not going to go towards whatever he says he needs. That's what's happening to me personally. I'm not saying that is what's going to happen with your brother. I'm just saying with me, that's always what it's been. Especially when it's out of the
blue. Yeah. I quit giving him money years ago, but
good.
For me, the problem is, guys, if he wants, I've hesitated to reach back out to him, because if he wants to see me, I find that too painful. I can't watch what he's doing to himself.
It's about those boundaries. Remember, you set those boundaries, and don't allow them to cross over on those boundaries.
But he won't understand that. Right.
But he doesn't have to. It's not about them to understand. As long as you understand, you're the one who says, "Hey, I'm going to do this much, and once I get to that part, this point, I'm going to back up, because that's only the limitations that I'm setting for myself. The boundary is there. He doesn't have to understand what it is. You are the one who are responsible for only one person, and that is you."
One thing my mom always taught me when I was a child was to live your life without regrets. And that includes, like this situation, just make sure that whatever you do, you don't have a regret in the future. So even if that is, man, I wish I would have texted him. If you want to text him, if you think that's something that you would regret, then respond to him. But like Brian said, have those boundaries already in your mind. If he says this, I'm just going to block his number or whatever. Because if your other brother is in contact with him, then you know if something happened that you would know. But just life with no regrets. That's my advice.
Right.
Well, and that's good advice. I can't block him. I would feel too guilty. But at the same time, I really don't want to respond right now.
Well,
so
then
I'm kind of in a quandary.
That's something that me and Liz in the comments have discussed before, or maybe it was with you. I think Liz is confused. But anyway, one time that if you want to forgive someone, forgiveness doesn't have a timeline. Like we were referencing the Bible, even though I'm not religious, but in the Bible it says, to forgive, but there's no other stipulations added. It's on your time and your terms when you decide to, do that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, if you want to bring the Bible into it, it says in the Lord's Prayer, to forgive in order to be forgiven, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a whole nother issue. I don't need to forgive him personally, other than he needs to forgive himself. I don't understand. I don't understand the level of addiction that he's at, right? I understand.
But you can only carry the baggage for you. You can't carry the baggage for him and you, especially when you can't put yourself in their shoes. And even Elizabeth is saying you can block him. You owe him nothing. This is not your child. This is not someone that you brought into this world. So the boundaries that you set are up to you, not anyone else. So if you want to block them, block them. If you don't want to block them and you want to keep going on and figuring out what's going on, that's also up to you.
Yeah, I've got to figure it out. He's not my child. He is my brother, but he's still. I would feel too guilty blocking him, but at the same time, I don't want to see him. So
right.
It's like being caught between a rock and a hard place.
It's not always easy. No one's saying it's going to be easy for you to make decisions, especially when they come in the matters of the heart, whether that be with family or relationships. No one can tell you.
The hardest thing to do is even set the boundaries. How far am I going to let this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and Brian likes to make fun of me for this, but at this point, all I can do is pray for guidance. And I know he likes to laugh at me for praying a lot, but that's my first instinct is I don't know what to do. Show me what to do.
Sometimes it's like that Band-Aid. It's like that Band-Aid. You just got to grab it, rip it off all at one time, and maybe that's the best way. Eating the frog. Eating the frog.
Yeah.
I really don't think there's nothing wrong with praying for guidance. I really don't. If that helps you, that helps you.
It does.
And so if you get yourself solace from that, then do it by all means. Mm-hmm. But I will say, once you've ripped off that Band-Aid, the pressure will be released, and you won't feel like this anymore.
Right.
You've got to release it.
When you say rip off the Band-Aid, you're talking about making a decision one way or the other? Is that what you guys mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
You've got to make a decision. And once you rip that off, then you'll be at peace with yourself.
Right.
It may hurt a little. I'm not going to say it's not going to hurt. The decision's going to hurt either way. But once you've done it, it will help.
Absolutely.
Right.
I agree with that.
Lizzie's being hard on me. No buts.
Well, let's go ahead. We got about 6 minutes left. Let's go ahead and see if we can get through some more of the video.
That you ever had that didn't work out. Now, this is hard because it's so personal and it's so painful. If you can forgive your parents, it's a real good warm-up. Most people are still mad at their parents in their 50s. If you then forgive every previous relationship, You accept that you were at least partially responsible for getting into the relationship. You were definitely responsible for staying in the relationship. You just say, I am responsible, I am responsible, I am responsible. I bless them and let them go. And just let it go. Because in letting them go, you set yourself free. By not letting them go, you're keeping yourself in prison, in an emotional prison. The third thing that you can do is forgive everybody else. Forgive everyone else in your life that has ever hurt you in any way. Every past childhood slight, every sibling, every person in your family, every person you ever worked for, every lousy boss or person who cheated you, lied to you, robbed you, and everything else, and so on. I mean, just let it go. Just let it go. Remember, it's a selfish act. You're doing it for yourself. And finally, number 4, this is really critical, forgive yourself.
Look, man, if you got something that's been bothering you in your life, get past it. See, if God wakes you up in the morning, it's a sign from God that he ain't through with you yet. That's why he wakes you up. When he's done with you, you won't wake up no more. But as long as he got something for you, he keeps waking you up. Why don't you wake up to go see what that is? He done got you past whatever it was. Whatever it was that's been on you, he done really brought you through it. Because he keeps waking, you're done. Don't lay that wallowing in your past, man. Your past is back there. I would rather show the world what love do through forgiveness than sit up in here and win a damn argument.
Now, I have it on good authority. I've done some research on you before you came here. I find that every single person here has done some wicked, senseless, brainless, foolish, cruel, idiotic, stupid things in their life. Is that true? Say yes. Yes. Okay. Let it go. And please understand this. The person who did those things no longer lives, no longer exists. The person you were in the past is a different person than you are today. The person you are today wouldn't do those things because you now have wisdom, you have hindsight, you have intelligence, you understand consequences. So the person you are today is a different person from the person you were back then. So don't keep beating yourself up because that other person, another person, did something that today you disapprove of. All right? Just let yourself go. Let yourself off the hook. And when you let it all go, it's almost like a huge burden off your back. You just forgive everybody and you forgive everything, and on a go-forward basis, you just forgive everybody. You don't have any negativities at all. No negativity toward anybody. You're just a positive person. And if you'll do that, if you accept responsibility like yourself and forgive everyone else, you become a truly superior person. Most amazing.
Major reason for not having everything you want in America. Major reasons for not having more of what you want in America. More health, more money, more power, more influence, more everything. Major reason why you don't get it. Simple answer. Neglect. Neglect. And here's the problem with neglect. It starts as an infection. And if you don't take care of it, it becomes a disease. And here's what else is the problem. One neglect leads to another. Neglect to do wise things with your money, you'll probably neglect to do wise things with your time. Neglect to do wise things with your time, you'll probably neglect to do wise things with your business.
There, Brian.
One leads to another, leads to another. Pretty soon, neglect has you by the throat.
Sorry.
That's okay. I got you.
Yep. I totally believe in what that person said about different persons. Sorry, I'm just turning the mute off for this for a second. Yeah, I totally believe in what he said about being different people. When I was a lot younger, 30 years ago, I'd done a terrible thing. You know, and it was
What was it?
like, I'm not saying that's my guilt. That's me. But I still find it hard to forgive myself for what I'd done 30 years ago.
Wow.
I am a different person to what I was then. I was a stupid 18, 19-year-old who didn't know much about life at all, who lived in a small country village, who was an idiot. But I grew. When I moved, I grew because I lived in a big city when I was 19. Going up to when I was 20, I lived in a big city, and I had to learn to toughen up and I learned how to grow emotionally too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can grow physically, but you've got to grow emotionally. That's a nice dog.
And they just said that they just put that in the chat too. Liz is saying that you have to, or excuse me, Laura Radar, mental health is equally important as physical health. Absolutely.
Yeah, and what I done, I'm disgusted about what I done. Now I know I can't take it back, and I can't really say I'm sorry for it. So I can't forget it either, but I can learn from it
Mm-hmm.
and not do the same mistakes again.
Right.
I think
Don't go ahead, Tiff.
I was going to say, I think it would be more tragic if you weren't disgusted with yourself if you did something terrible. And I think that it's important that you do things like that do stick with you because, like, whenever you create those connections in your brain, even if it's not the same situation, it's a different situation, you still know how to handle it better. You still know how to react better, or you still know how to say, yes, I'm going to do that, or no, I'm going to do that, or whatever. I think it would be more tragic if you didn't.
And yeah,
If you weren't concerned
did
about
forget it. Yeah, if you did forget about it and you didn't learn from it and you weren't discussing about it. I am. There's not a single day where I don't regret what I've done.
You know, I think maybe also to what we were watching a little bit earlier in the video was, I wrote it down because we do this a lot in technology, is sometimes knowing what not to do is just as equal as important as what to do. And so when you're talking about whatever it is and in your past, learning from mistakes, people learn from their mistakes a lot more so from their accomplishments. So when you learn what not to do and you say, you know what, I'm still remembering those things. And maybe it's a good reminder because there may be certain aspects of our lives or situations in our lives where that situation may reoccur. And you go, wait a minute, I don't want to have to be in this. I'm not minimizing it, but I'm minimizing it for the sake of the conversation. And I don't want you to give too much personal information either, Paul. So what I'm saying is whatever it is, if you, at least if you have a reminder and it's something that you know is so egregious that you don't want to repeat it, I think that's a healthy type of carrying it on because you know that you wanted to learn from it and it's a reminder of a better way of living that you are bringing into yourself and those around you because you're changing.
The way I look at it is, all right, I've done these things. If I hadn't done these things, if I hadn't recognised what I've done, I wouldn't be the same person I am now. By the time I moved away, I picked up a public award for doing work in the community. That only like 285 people have got in Glasgow, and that's a city of like I can't remember, about 500,000 people. I wouldn't be going for my degree right now. I would still be the same. I'd have been a loser. I would have totally been a loser there. I would have been totally in a senseless relationship that would have made no sense, and I would have not been the same person as I am now. We're not able to think as I do now, not able to do the things that I have done in my life.
Right.
You know, we work at these. We recognise what things we've done, and we work on from it and progress and learn from them. Learn from your mistakes. Never forget.
Right.
But also, it's very hard to forgive myself too, which I'm trying to do. I still try to do, but it's
hanging around the right people, removing yourself from toxic environments, adding positivity into your lifestyle is the best medicine for individuals that feel as if they're still trying to move forward and not let their past affect them. And I don't think that's a lesson that many people learn because you still see a lot of people going back to the same environments, the same toxicity, the same negativity. And then they keep wondering why they keep going to bed stressed out, crying, not making any clear improvements in their lifestyle.
Yeah, totally.
But you, Paul, I can see, even by just talking to you and the jokes and stuff that we even have passed on the strings, if you never told me that story, I would think that you were a very loving, go-lucky, charismatic, funny, jovial individual. That's the impression I think most people get that come run across for you.
Well, I try to be that. I don't try to be a doer person, if you know what the word doer means. It's a Scottish word. I don't try to bring people down. I'd like to see more people happy. I still can't forgive Veen what he done. But I do try to make people laugh, and I do care about people. And like I say, I'm not the same guy as I was when I was 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was just emotionally stunted. Kid.
I was
was a
very
kid,
stupid.
really. Yes.
I was stupid at that time. I don't think I became until I was in my 30s.
True story. Facts.
I done that when I was in my 47. I'm going to say year 47.
Oh, last year.
Last year.
Yeah. Last year.
All right.
I learned when I was in my 20s. I did start to learn when I was in my 20s there.
Okay, so let me get back to the video, and I know when the video is over, we're gonna have some dialogue. I know, but I'm also thinking because I gotta go do Taco Tuesday, but
I gotta get dinner.
Yeah, but we might have an after party tonight to kind of go a little bit more in depth if anybody's available. So we'll stick around. We'll let you know if there's an after party that we can maybe continue the discussion. But let's get back to the video.
Emptying your purse, emptying your heart, emptying all of your chances for equities and power and all the good things. Neglect. What if you should be walking around the block every day for your good health and you don't? I'm telling you, you're on the wrong track. You should do it, you could do it, you don't do it. That's called formula for disaster. All you've got to do is let that and a few other things accumulate for 6 years, and now you're driving what you don't want to drive, wearing what you don't want to wear, living where you don't want to live, doing what you don't want to do, maybe having become what you really didn't want to become. I'm telling you, that's it. Just neglect along, drift along, and it's got you by the throat. It'll take all your values, leave you with just a little bit of dust in the summer wind, and it'll soon be gone. I hope I said that well. That's it. It's where I found myself at age 25 until my teacher came along and said, Mr. Owen, up till now you've messed up. Let's see if we can't clean that up, change it all. I did. Changed my life. Not just the money, all the rest of the values that came pouring in when I understood that it was me. It was me. Here's the problem with the least neglect. Neglect starts as an infection. And if you don't take care of it, it becomes a disease. And one neglect leads to another. And the worst of all, when neglect starts, it diminishes our self-worth, our self-confidence, our self-value. You say, well, how can I get back my self-respect? I'm telling you, you don't have to go to 29 classes. All you have to do is start the smallest discipline that now corresponds to your own philosophy, like I should, and I could, and I will. No longer will I let neglect stack up on me so that I will have the sorry scenario 6 years from now, giving some excuse instead of celebrating my progress.
That is the video, folks. And let me say something. I think that I was touched a little bit by that last aspect when we were talking about neglecting, and you know how if you neglect getting up and doing the things that you needed to do, and and you're neglecting this, and how that can kind of snowball into your lives and prevent you from doing the things that you really want to be, or become who you want to become if you are not taking those steps. And I liken that to, if I want to further my career, am I getting the certifications? Am I taking the training? Am I doing the things that I know that are require for me to get to that next step? Are we taking those strides? Are we taking those steps needed? Or are we sitting by and neglecting our mental training? Are we neglecting our physical training if it's something physical that we know we need to do for our health? Are we neglecting ourselves?
Isn't that a way of self-harming too, emotionally?
Well, I think Laura or Lizzie in the chat were saying self-care is a thing, and it's not supposed to be a selfish act. And in by the term of self-care, it may be defined as being selfish, but it's important. Self-care requires you to be work on your emotional maturity, your physical strength, your mental maturity. All the things that make you who you are needs work. It needs sharpening. Because if you don't work on the things that make you uniquely you, you start to fade. Those things aren't as sharp as they used to be, and that makes it easier for those toxic traits, that toxicity to seep into us because we are weakened in those areas. You
I
have to
think
stay
it's hard.
sharp.
Yeah, I think it's harder to physically look after yourself. It's easier than mentally looking after yourself. Anybody can lift up a weight and lift, like, say, 5 pounds or 2 pounds, and start doing that every day. But what's there to help your mind?
Yeah,
I mean, doctors give you medication. I'm on medication.
Mhm.
But that doesn't help the mind. That just papers over the cracks, doesn't it?
Well, everybody, see, and this is the thing too. I wanted to say also about the video. Everybody's going to have their own hiccups, areas where they're not going to be as strong as the next person. They're going to be some things that they need to work harder on in order to sharpen. But here's the thing. I don't think that this video is supposed to be a across the board catch-all for everybody. And as we had mentioned before, everybody's lives aren't full of rainbows and unicorns. Not everybody had perfect parents. Not everybody did these things. I think if you take this and say this is a foundation on how you can take some very basic principles to improve your life. And if you start and just take out of what you can apply to you, let everything, and that's how I study. I take out things that I think are going to be important to me, and I leave all the other fluff alone. I skim over a lot of stuff. I look for things that I know that's going to be important to me. And then I can just get rid of all the other stuff. So take out of these videos, not what Brian's going to take out of for Tiff or Lizzie or Paul or anybody. Take out what you need to work on you. Don't take out and say, hey, I saw this video and reminded me of you. Hey, Brian, that video you were talking about, it sure sounds like you. That's not the point.
So what you're saying is take sound bites out from it, like what you're saying, what take bits from it.
No,
that
not even this.
Relates to you.
Yes, whatever relates to you, whatever you can take out of it, whatever message that you got that applies to you, use it, take it. The messages aren't about the message is not for us to be pointing fingers, call out anybody, or say anything to anybody. The message is about positivity. Is how I, Drinks and Discussions, Brian, can use it in my life and in my channel. And it's up to you, Tiffany, Liz, Paul, and everybody else in the chat to take whatever it is that you want to take out of this. If there's no right, there's no wrong answers to this.
So
Sorry, Tiff, you go.
No, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. Ladies first. Always ladies first.
Well, I was just going to say, I was raised in a very strict church environment, almost cult-like. But there was something that they did that kind of stuck with me. It was called Lectio Divina. It's a Latin term. It means the divine reading. And it's where you focus on something and you meditate on it and determine how it pertains to you and not how it reads scripturally, which we're not talking about the Bible, but and how it pertains to you. And I think this is kind of the same thing. If you take that entire thing and you meditate on it and you determine which parts of it you can apply to your life to make a more positive impact, it doesn't have to be all of it, but just whatever applies to you.
I get that. I mean, I also grew up in a strict church, cult-like household. It was an American church too. Not saying one, but everybody knows. They're all based in Utah.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
We got you. Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
But I feel better. I sort of feel better talking about this with people like on the panel here. I think talking helps a lot more too. talking about it, and people are often not judging or sort of judging, but also trying to help. You know, just speaking about it is sort of like takes a bit off the mind.
A little therapeutic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this has probably helped a lot more than me taking the pills and going and seeing like a counsellor.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that, because that makes the reason why we're doing it worthwhile, because that's exactly what we are trying to do.
Even if it just helps one person, I'm happy to be here. So.
Yeah.
So I will have to say, because both Tiff and I have to go dinner it up with the fam, I want to say thank you for everybody watching. We normally like to go round robin and say goodbye and say all of our last minute things. We're going to table that for the next time. But I do want to say thank you all for joining us in the chat. You know who you are. I can't go by and say goodnight to all those. But we really appreciate you guys joining the live stream, and we will see you again next time. Everybody on panel, thank you. Until next time, we're Drinks and Discussions.